on the same two issues. One is from member Stan Schmidt, and the other one is from Lance Green. Those conflicts were relating to the May 23rd Planning Commission meeting for items number 6, which was case number 19-20000001, which was a small-scale comprehensive plan future land use amendment on the southwest corner of Taylor Road and Boggs Ford Road. And item number 7, which was case number 19-6000001, which was the rezoning related to the southwest corner of Taylor Road and Boggs Ford Road. Both of those individuals had conflicts of interest. That's all we need. Good. Thank you very much on that one. Moving on to case number 19-9000003, a subdivision variance for Kings Landing subdivision on the east side of Hensel Road between East Hensel Drive and Hills Boulevard. This was continued from the May 23rd meeting of the Planning Commission. Mr. Tim Berman.
Hey, Penny, where she put those PowerPoints? Tim Berman, Community Development. The item before you tonight is a subdivision variance to request by the applicant to omit the extension of Rocco Road from Rolling Hill subdivision into the Kings Landing subdivision. As you might remember, the Kings Landing subdivision was approved back in 2018, late in 2018. It consists of, just for general information, 24 lots. 23 of them are 1 acre lots. One of them is a 20,000 square foot lot. It, as we said, was approved. It currently is under construction. The subdivision variance has come in to, basically request that Rocco Road connection be omitted. The applicant is proposed to, if it does get approved, would omit it from the plans not constructed. If it does not get approved, they would continue as the plans show and construct the roadway extension then. So again, going back onto it, basically the request is to omit the extension of Rocco Road into Kings Landing subdivision. The current way the code is set up, it states that if you are developing a piece of property and it's to the north, south, east, west is vacant or undeveloped, you are to provide a roadway stub out. And it then kind of says too, if you are developing a piece of property and there's a roadway stub out, you are to connect to it. In this case, Rolling Hills developed in early 2000s, I think around 2003, 2004, that time frame. When they developed their site, they chose to stub out Rocco Road at that location versus anywhere else throughout that long stretch of the property into the property to the north then. As Kings Landing came in, they did their plans, they showed the connection being made there. As according to the applicant, as he was getting ready to go under construction for the project, they started talking with some of the residents in the area of Rolling Hills, and one of the issues that came up with the residents there, I believe there were 6 on Rocco Road, was that specific connection. And the request, as I understand from the homeowners to the applicant, was if they be consider that variance application to go before Planning Commission and ultimately City Council to omit that connection. So that's kind of how we got to the item before you tonight then. A subdivision variance, as we indicated in the staff report, does have is a little bit different than a standard variance. It requires Planning Commission recommendation and then ultimately goes to the City Council for final approval. So this, after tonight then, it will go on to the City Council meeting then. A little bit more zoomed in onto kind of what that request is really showing here. On the left here, you see the current plans that have been approved, which show the Rocco Road extension. And this is basically what the developer is looking to do, if this would be approved, is to leave that as green space and further develop, and then Rocco Road would remain as the stub out at that location. Staff has provided you with the information from the applicant regarding the request, along with petition from the Rocco Road residents asking for that variance to be approved as part of your package then. In looking at the criteria, it is unique in how the roadway access there, with Rocco Road being so close to Hensel Road and almost forming kind of a rectangle in that area then. The intent of that code is for interconnectivity, but interconnectivity is typically trying to make sure there's alternative routes to larger roadway networks, such as basically trying to extend over Devon Street where you have the light up to Taylor Road. In this case, the two access points still get you back onto Hensel Road to go north on Hensel Road up to Taylor Road. In that case then. And this kind of shows that detail a little bit more here. It really impacts pretty much these 6 homes right here. If this road got connection, most likely they would be the ones that would be utilizing that access point to come through here, to come out to this access point and make a right or possibly a left on Hensel Road then. It's anticipated that most of the traffic that's in Rolling Hills would continue to use Hills Boulevard to make their access point. And as for Kings Landing residents, it doesn't appear that there would be a great need to cut through this way here to go south then, since there's typically nothing really south of that area except other homes to visit and Neighbors Ice Cream. So that's kind of looking at the that configuration there. It should be noted that as part of the Kings Landing proposal, which was in part of the kind of the master plan that they had envisioned, which we showed back in December 18 of there, it does show the future phases being developed. And since this report has been written, which was finalized last Friday, the Kings Landing Phase 2 subdivision did come in later this week, which shows basically kind of the continuation all the way to the east side of the property. And we did show that in the staff report, and that is under review right now. That would kick it at 69 lots then total, and does show the access points going to English Drive all the way into the existing subdivisions to the east and tying into Broken Bow. So as this project continues to develop, Phase 1 and then eventually Phase 2, once that's been approved, there will ultimately be 3 points of access in here for interconnectivity. The applicant is here to answer any questions that you might have, along with some of the residents who are either for it or against it. Staff is also here to ask you any questions that you might have.
Cool. Thank you. Lance, you have any
Tim,
questions for
on
Tim?
this drawing that I see right here, I see this little note that says about a temporary access or like some kind of little access road there. That's not something that the fire department is needing as far as fire department access? This little,
The green
the
shot?
little dotted line, it says proposed,
That's temporary.
right there.
Access easement, that's to basically get back to the retention pond. That's there then. So we would, if this would be approved then, we would have to basically modify that around in that area then.
because the only thing I didn't see in this staff report is that the fire department has actually looked at this and what the fire department thought about this
We, it was in the,
interconnectivity or not being interconnected.
it was back in the criteria, in the later part of the criteria, we did contact the fire department.
Okay.
They did look at it, and they basically, indicated that in terms of an emergency, that access point would not be used. It'd be this single point off of Hensel would be where they do their point of access there. We also inquired too, accidents in that location. But basically they were, we did review it with fire, and they were,
Okay.
okay with that. Similar to, we did the one variance recently with Bella Oaks. It had the one single point of access.
Mhm.
Also too, as you go further to the north of this site, there I believe are 4 subdivisions with one point of access off of Hensel Road, and a few other to the south then. So it's, there's common in that area, but the fire department did, we did speak with the fire marshal, Bo Gardner,
Okay.
on this specific item, and was also present at some of the pre-application meetings where this was discussed.
Okay, that's all I got for Tim right now.
Thank you, Lance. Newton?
Okay, so we're gonna, if we eliminate this interconnectivity road, they're gonna leave it green space. It's not gonna be another, they're not adding any houses. No future in adding any houses to it.
As of right now, basically it's green space. The developer can confirm basically in the future, but from what we saw in the plans there, it shows as green space, if this would be approved.
My only concern was that they would not be able to add any more houses.
Also, I think too, with the lot size and stuff like that there, and the configuration, it'd be very hard to put in that location, but like I said, at this point, it's just a proposal to omit that, and would be replaced with green space if approved.
Bo, any questions for Tim?
My
Your button.
only question was the accessibility of emergency services, so that's not an issue at all.
We can communicate with
Okay.
them, and also too, like we talked about, that phase 2 coming in here under
Right.
review.
Mhm.
While that's still under construction, eventually those, further connection points will be, further made as phase 2 develops.
And my only other concern would be, this is not going to impede the accessibility of the neighbor's general store.
No.
Okay. Oh, that's all I have.
You can still get your
Yeah.
ice cream.
Huh?
You can still
That's
get your ice
right.
cream.
Exactly.
I'm good, Tim. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
At this time, we'll hear from the applicant.
Oh. All right.
I wasn't sure if it'd be easier to reference, but. Good evening, Joey Posey, 420 South Nova, attorney for the applicant. And I appreciate all the work Tim's put into this, and I don't want to belabor some of the points here. And I just want to simply highlight that, to echo what Tim said, and, we've already submitted for phase 2. This is about transparency. There's nothing really to hide here. It's simply a request to, in my opinion, lessen impact. And I imagine that won't sit well with folks anyway, but it is what it is, and I can represent for you today, so it's on the record that will remain open space. There's no lots planned. The phase 2 has been submitted, so there's no more land to plat really. And the other thing that I think we need to keep in mind is that and I imagine this is going to be a point of contention, is that this is just simply a variance application for a subdivision, and I know we call it a variance, but I think it's more akin to a waiver request. But it does have criteria. It's a very simple process, and that's what we're here to decide. It's a very small segment of road that connects and impacts some neighbors who came to us and said, "This isn't necessary for you. Is there some way you can accommodate us?" And that's what we're here for. That it's a very simple give, that if we can eliminate that road, create some open space, then everybody lives happy, and you try to please as many people as you can. And it's just a win-win. But other than that, I'm here to answer any questions you guys have. We've looked at this, I can't tell you how many times over the last 4 years.
We can.
And you guys have too. And that I think every expert in a very large area has also put their eyes on it. And if there's anything that I can add that may need clarification for you guys, please let me know, because we've brought along the engineer. That if there's any specific questions that you have, we're happy to help. And the property owners here, I know that some of the Rocco residents are here. So again, we're here. We're here to answer questions, and just please let me know if there's anything I can do to make this as open and transparent as possible.
Cool. Thank you very much. Bo?
No questions.
Nothing? Newton?
No, I'm good.
Nothing? I have a couple questions real quick. So, am I correct in stating that you've already had a variance to not extend the Westport Drive?
Westport, I believe that's the correct road, correct? Westport? Yes, that is correct.
And you've already had a variance to not extend Forest Troll Drive?
Is Forest Troll the other one? Right, and that was, there were mitigating circumstances for it, and again, those requests came before you in terms of the tree and
Okay.
that.
And then, from what I understand, from what Tim said, you've submitted the phase 2,
Correct.
and so that means English Oaks is definitely going to be connected?
Well, as of now, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no as of, it is.
Right, yeah, thank you, Frank. That's true.
Do you want to
Yes.
restate that?
No,
for the
and that is
record?
correct, you are correct.
All right, and how about on Broken Bow? Does that include Broken Bow, or is that in a different phase?
Yes, that is correct, phase 2.
Yes, it's included.
Yes, in phase 2.
So it's platted, it's planned. Both of those will be extended?
Correct.
And there's no intention or plan or expectation that you'll come back for a variance on closing either one of those?
Not closing, no.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I had.
Okay.
At this time, we'll entertain.
You have another attorney.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know I did. 2 attorneys. Good golly.
Correct.
I got all kinds of billable hours tonight.
Good evening, I'm Eric Gill, I'm actually attorney for Sharon Kent. And I'm gonna start with probably
Who's this? Who do you represent?
I represent Sharon Kent.
Is this one of the applicants,
No,
or is this?
No, Sharon Kent is one of the homeowners that's affected by
Okay,
this.
just trying to understand, and
Oh,
make sure.
no, that's fine, she lives on Hansel Road.
Got it.
And
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Absolutely, no, I'm here to answer questions too. Looking at this, I guess my My first question, after listening to counsel for the developer is, and I guess it's, I have a city attorney here, so maybe she can answer this. So in other words, once you green light something based on a staff report and then the council approves it, it then becomes mandatory and binding?
I'm not sure what your question is.
If, okay, assume this gets approved at the council
You
level.
need to step in front of the microphone. We
Pardon me,
can't hear you.
assume this gets approved by the city council based upon a staff report. Then would that be absolutely mandatory binding as to what the developer has to do? Leave the green area, et cetera? Because actually, this gentleman alluded to it, about whether or not if this was approved, there'd be any future variances. So that's kind of one concern. In other words, you approve something subject to it, an area being preserved and kept as a green area. Once it's approved, does that become absolute mandatory binding by the council? In other words, is the developer going to be required to comply with that?
I think Tim can answer that one.
Yeah.
It can be made a condition if the recommendation is to approve, that be the case then, and that would basically be how we would enforce it moving forward. That basically remain as green space, open space, but that'd be a condition if the variance is approved.
Okay, but, so I'm clear on it, and everybody who's not represented by an attorney is clear on it, then if it's approved with the recommendation of the staff report that there is a green area, then the developer is required to have a green area. Am I correct?
Correct, as a condition of approval, yes.
Condition of approval. And once it's approved, though, the developer then has to allocate that green area. Am I correct?
Correct, because that would be the representation of the condition.
Okay, so then if it's in the staff report, it gets approved, it becomes binding.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So
Which I will
then,
put on the record when I go back.
okay. All right. I guess I'm gonna start with Mr. Storch's letter of April 24th, 2019. Because, see, I have kind of a fundamental due process concern here. I did not receive notice of this. I also live on Hansel Road. My law office has been in the same location since Ronald Reagan's first term of office. And the house and family home has been in the same location for longer than that. And as I understand it, this was supposed to come before you in May, and apparently there was a due process goof up, and consequently, as a result of a due process goof up, this then got shunted into June. Here's my concern. I represent Sharon. Sharon's asked me, did you have enough time to prepare, being scanned? Did you have enough time to adequately prepare this? And I said, actually, no. I got a staff report on June 21st, less than a week out from this hearing. Now, if I was having a hearing in front of the court, unless it was an emergency hearing, less than a week would be inadequate notice. So to receive a staff report, and the other burr I have under my saddle on that staff report is, keep in mind, now that's something that was kicking around that could have been in front of all of us in May. And then now it goes into June, so June 21st, I get a staff report 5:30 before the weekend. So my fundamental objection there is the fact that I don't believe I've had adequate due process notice to properly prepare for this case, to present my client's side of the matter.
Very good.
So I would like to have, I don't want to proceed without waiving that objection.
Well, this is quasi-judicial, this is,
That's right.
and so you're here on behalf of a
Sharon Kent.
citizen, and so you're here as under citizen comments.
What's that?
You're here on behalf of a citizen.
But I'm an
making comments.
attorney and my client, we are entitled to adequate due process notice. And what I'm saying is, being served with something effectively on Friday, June 21st at 5:30 in the evening is inadequate notice. When the matter staff report could have easily been done and concluded back in May and served in the beginning of June.
Well, I would say that we've met the requirements for notifications and publications of this event. So if you have an issue with that, then I believe you have to proceed to
Well,
court.
I didn't say publication, I said the service of the staff report.
I don't know that term.
It's not service of process, it doesn't, you're speaking like in terms of court, going to court and the obligations of service.
Understood.
And that's not in this, that's not what.
Understood,
Yeah.
counsel, but we're also in a quasi-judicial proceeding, and there are due process requirements. I will proceed, provided my objection is not waived. Because again, less than 1 week's notice on a staff report.
But we're not, well, okay, so we're not having, that's not what we're here for. If you wanna be heard on that, that is, I would say, a city council function. I can look into it and we can get back to you, but
That would be
I
fine.
would tell you that I believe I think what you're alluding to is something that would occur with city council.
Well, again, this is part of a legal proceeding that's quasi-judicial. It ultimately winds up in front of council, but my objection is the fact that this was inadequate notice of a staff report to prepare for this very hearing, because this board is gonna make either a recommendation of approval or denial.
And they make a recommendation of approval or denial, and then I believe it goes on to council. Council makes the ultimate decision.
Understood.
So
Okay.
that's, I believe that's where you would want to place your objection.
All right, well, as long as my objection is preserved for the record and not waived, then I'll proceed.
Actually, if I could step in real quick, when you told me you were an attorney for the case, I thought you meant attorney for the applicant. As an attorney representing the client, you are still part of the public, so you're limited to the 3 minutes.
Will I be limited to 3 minutes in
Yes.
front of the
Yes.
council to?
Citizen participation is 3 minutes. That's what I was trying to tell you a little,
Now, wait a
bit
minute.
earlier.
You mean
We
the
got
developer's
sidetracked.
attorney gets a chance to engage in the art of persuasion for as long
Because
as he
he's representing the applicant. So
And
he's
yet an
speaking on-
affected homeowner does not have.
They
Okay.
get to speak for 3 minutes. That's citizen comments. And you're here on behalf of a citizen.
Okay.
Well, he's a citizen too, so he has his 3 minutes plus the homeowner's 3 minutes, so that's 6 minutes. I'm pretty sure you achieved what you had to say in 6 minutes.
He has already taken his allotted time.
Yes, thank you very much,
So
sir.
if-
Mr. Chair, I
If
mean,
the
you
commission
can,
wanted
you
to give
can,
more time,
give
they can
him
do
more
so.
minutes if you
Well,
so
no,
choose.
I had started.
Sir,
a
how,
request.
sir, how much time do you believe you'll need additional?
10 minutes maybe?
The
Maybe
applicant
less.
is also limited to 15 minutes, so
Hmm?
What's that?
the applicant
Oh, okay,
for
well,
you
yeah,
is limited to 15.
Yeah, I mean,
so
you've,
wouldn't-
you've had 3 and you've had another, at least 3 arguing your request. I can give you another 3 if you'd like, to at least express
I
your
appreciate
client's
that
opinion.
courtesy, Mr. Jordan, thank you.
Please, go ahead, 3 minutes then, if you'll restart that clock. Thank you.
Okay. On the applicant's request, as I understand it, and talking to council, this will become binding. I have a concern, more than a concern, over the issue involving the fire department. I'm gonna testify, I live in the area, I had to go home one day, and this is within the last 3 weeks. Hansel Road was actually blocked in both directions because there was an emergency. I could not get into Hansel Road. The problem that I see with this from a very practical standpoint is if there is a catastrophic collision at the one access point, then there's no other alternative route for anyone to get into phase 1 of the subdivision, including the fire department. So there has to be an alternate route. I could not actually get into Hansel Road. I had to jog over to Devon Street. In other words, I had jogged over there, took kind of the back circuitous route via Central Park Boulevard. But even though the fire department says, well, you know, we don't need it, only one access point to the subdivision, I think if you have a worst case scenario, perfect storm, you would certainly need it. So that would be one thing I think you really do need to take into consideration. The second thing that I have is that since, according to the developer's attorney, they would be bound by this. In 2017, you granted 2 prior variances to the developer, and you have a staff report that supported that, and you had unanimous council approval. And this is King's Landing.
Sir, can
2000
can you stay closer to the
Pardon
microphone
me,
so
yep.
everybody can hear you?
King's Landing 2017, it was a council agenda item, and it was approved unanimously. And that's gonna bring us to the staff report. Didn't have a lot of time to make copies, folks, so I'm gonna go ahead and, hopefully we have enough.
Thank you.
Sir, you have about 14 more seconds, so I want to give you the opportunity to speak.
Go take a look at page 2. Following subdivision improvements will be constructed before or simultaneously
Right, right.
with the development of the first lot.
Sir, I have to ask you, your time is allotted and limited, so we have to move on. Does the applicant wish to respond to any of this or speak about any of the points raised?
Maybe continue with public comments, Tom, or no?
Yeah, I just want to have you with us.
And I'll be brief. You know, I don't want to take up any more time than I need to, but I just want to simply state that, you know, as to a condition of approval, you know, I'm here to represent that it will be open space, and it's not lots. So if that's a condition of your recommendation, then please, for the record, I'm happy to have that as part of the approval. The other thing that I'd like to point out too is that, you know, the experts have looked at this. You know, this may be a quasi-judicial hearing, and I haven't heard any certified experts speaking on behalf of any point of contention with the proposal, but you know, I'm here to rely on their expertise, and that, you know, we've looked at this for going on 4 years now. So, and again, you know, I understand that maybe the homeowner's attorney, the process is a little different, but you know, the council hearing, if I understand correctly, is about 3 weeks from now. So there's plenty of opportunity to work with us if you like to talk to us. Again, it's an open door policy at our office. You're more than welcome to call us. I mean, this is the first time I've met him, so I think it cuts both ways.
Good. Thank you very much. All right, so let's get back to public comments,
Yes.
since that's where we were headed. Public comments, open. Anybody wishes to speak to this particular subject. Just ask you 2 things. Keep your discussion, your points relevant to this particular issue. And as you know, we have a 3-minute limit on citizen comments. So, who would like to come up to speak before us? And if you'll do, please state your name and your address.
I'm Beth Goldie. I live at 736 Pringle Road, which is off of Hensel Road. And I'd like to make 3 points. First, I think there would be a dangerous precedent set if the city decides it's okay to treat and implement plans for an already approved phase of a subdivision as a subdivision in and of itself, simply because the developer has kept the number of lots in that phase to 24 or less. I don't believe the codes have been utilized in this way before. They may have been, but I'm not aware of that. And I do not believe that's the intent of the LDC. Secondly, Mr. Posey has stated today that the neighbors came to him with their request about Rocco Road. However, the letter that he wrote to the staff requesting the change, and that was included with the staff report, states that the developer reached out to the neighbors. Which is it? I'd like to know from the developer's representatives why the developers reached out seemingly only to the residents of the 6 houses on Rocco Road for their input. There are lots of other neighbors in the area that have been interested in the subject of the subdivision for quite some time, and they've shown their interest. It seems that the developers' representatives and the developers were begging the question if they did not solicit opinions of the other dozens of neighbors, or who else was contacted. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Golden. Appreciate that. Just all the other folks interested in speaking, come on up front, sir.
Hi, everybody.
How you doing?
My name's Kevin Kling. I live at 5953 Rocco Road. I actually reached out to Frank. I reached out to Frank and I was talking to him about my concerns about the road being connected, and told him that we preferred that the road is not connected. Reached out to my neighbors, all six of them. All 6 of them agreed. Got an additional document written up. I don't know if you guys and ladies have a copy. Can I give you a copy? Will we all?
I can take them.
You take 'em?
Yeah.
Okay. We simply just don't want the road connected due to safety reasons and unnecessary traffic. We like the road to stay the way it is. That's it.
Very cool. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Anyone else? Doctor? You want to come up?
Dan Jack Goldie, 736 Pringle. The question to extend Rocco appears to be raising a lot of complex issues. To me, there's some legal, I'm not a lawyer, you know, but the main thing about this, they're using examples all through this report that the intent of the code for a 24-lot subdivision should be applied this way. It actually defines, I'm just going to go quick here, but it actually states in the document that the proposed 24-lot subdivision, phase 1, meets the minimum subdivision requirements with 1 access point. But it states that phase 1 is a subdivision, and that's not correct. So what I fear most for the future, you know, we could have cookie cutter developments of 24-lot blocks. Yeah, and if we set a precedent to approve this project based on this opinion, if you give your permission and condone that that's really what the intent of the law is, or the code, the LDC code, I just fear, you know, that it can have, you know, future peril that's unknown. Then the other thing, that's Rocco Road. I mean, do you want to leave it like this? Dead end, useless, unkept? Shouldn't the plan have something to do to finish all these unused exits? Yeah, I don't think our city wants this. And then they posted this sign that I gave everybody a copy of the sign today, but that was just posted this week. And I noticed that phase 3 is where the connections are. And, you know, perhaps that got cleared up now, but, you know, I didn't know that. Because, you know, just this week they put this sign up. You know, I don't know. I just think that whatever we decide, we have a responsibility, you know, for the future, you know, for planning. We're planners. So we have to do the right thing. And you know, this decision to me is way more than if the road has merit or not. It's the whole plan and the way we plan things. And it sets an agenda for the future of the city.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for your time. Perfect timing. Anybody else wish to come speak on this subject? Come on up, sir.
Council Commission members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive. I would like to recommend reading this article in the paper about the gopher tortoises there. I would recommend that if you want to consider granting this variance, or waiver as they called it, that the developer should consider donating some land, perhaps 30 acres of the parcel, as a gopher tortoise easement, conservation easement. Now that would greatly reduce the traffic, and it would justify not putting that road in. So that's my recommendation. A conservation easement that's dedicated to the city and that they can't change. Thank you,
Robert. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Anyone else? Last chance. Sarah, you coming up? All righty.
Sarah Jones, 44 Woodfield Drive. One of the things that happens whenever you plan anything, you have a land development code. It's the big picture. And you do this to make the whole thing work. And every time, as the years go by, you deviate from that code, you ruin your big picture. You had the Rocco Road connection. It was within the code. Everybody was happy with it. And now all of a sudden, you want to mess with the land development code. And that code was developed with a lot of thought into it. And every time you prick a little hole in a balloon, you lose some air from it. The other thing, very simply, it's not broke. That road was intended to go through. That was the plan. If something isn't broke, don't at the last minute fix it, because it doesn't need fixing. You're just going to make more problems in the future. Leave well enough alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Anyone else this morning or this evening? Yes? All righty. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Melody Langford, and I live on 639 Overlook Trail, which is off of Hensel Road as well. I respectfully request the Planning Commission does not recommend the approval of the variance request to omit the extension of Rocco Road. If you do recommend approving the request, I request that you condition it on 3 things. One is the green space, and the other 2 is to keep the 2 interconnected roads that are currently part of the later phases. The interconnectivity permits Kings Landing residents to go south to access Spruce Creek Road. So it's not just getting to neighbors, it's hitting Spruce Creek so that then you can go to Nova Road, go south toward New Smyrna Beach, or access the beach side without hitting the nightmare that is Dunlawton. This variance request is not in compliance with the code, and if you recommend for City Council to approve the request, you're creating another precedent against interconnectivity between neighborhoods. The 3 subdivisions that are not in compliance, Sweetwater Hills was before the code, and the other 2 neighborhoods, Pheasant East and Pheasant West, are both very small, very few homes with cul-de-sacs at the end. They're nothing like a 24-home. Sweetwater Hills is, but that was before the code was in place, the precedent of interconnectivity. This, with 24 homes, is creating a new level of precedent on interconnectivity and not moving in line with the code. So for that reason, I ask that you do not recommend that the variance be approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Come on up.
My name is William Kent. I live at 5872 Hensel, and I'm seeing all the dirt being moved. I don't know if you guys been there and took a look, but man, they're moving mountains out there. It's unbelievable. But I am absolutely opposed of giving more special deals to special people. I would say throw everything out. All the stubs that are supposed to be connected, connected. That's what our rules and regulations say, and I think that's what we should do. Now let's focus in on Rocco Road. That's quite an incline. So here's one scenario. I hope this never happens, but if a kid is on a bicycle or skateboard or something, and the garbage truck has to go up the hill, then it has to back out. And that itself is a safety hazard. And also, I think the rules and regulations that Port Orange is supposed to abide by is that there are no dead ends. There's cul-de-sacs, and there's absolutely no room there to put a cul-de-sac. I got 1 minute and 42 seconds left. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Kent. I appreciate your time.
Can I speak one more minute?
Sir, we already had you already had 3 minutes. You had 2 minutes and 97 seconds. You were good. No thanks. Anybody else? All right, sir.
Hi, Rick Crimmy. I live on Rocco Road, 5952. I think this is really, if you look at the drawings that were up on the board showing the little triangle from Hensel to Rocco, that is going to create people flying down our street with a lot of children on it, because 1 or 2 cars is going to be at the stop sign trying to get onto Hensel Road. They're going to figure, I'll just go right over here, zoom on Rocco, and cut out King's Landing entrance. There's nothing wrong with keeping that road closed. They could put the green area there. You guys are making it mandatory. For safety on our street, we have people cutting through rolling hills all the time right now trying to get to Hensel. And I know they're going to come down Rocco now because 1 or 2 cars is going to be waiting at that stop sign. Just take a look at that picture and see what a tiny little triangle we're talking about. Leaving our road blocked off is not going to hurt that little triangle. And there's going to be other entrances for the fire department. They keep saying there's one entrance. There's more than one entrance. I don't see what the problem is. I just wanted to voice my opinion about the safety on our street between pets and children on a small little section of street that people are going to be flying down. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate that. Anyone else? Anyone else from the public before we? All righty. Been just biding your time over there, haven't you?
Vasilios Salonis. I live at 711 Tumblebrook. I just wanted, at the risk of sounding naive, some questions answered if the developer can answer them real quick. I saw Broken Bow and the other entrance, West Point, I'm assuming are the other 2 entrances into this development, and then those stubs in between Rocco are going to remain stubs. That's like part 1. And again, at the risk of sounding naive, the phase 2 and phase 3, like how far down the road is that? That was basically the questions I wanted to ask. So like how long construction can we expect over the course of the next several years?
Ask them. You can certainly ask them that after the meeting. They
Okay.
might be able to give you that
Okay.
information and
All
tell
right.
you what kind of time frame they have.
All right.
All right?
Yep, thanks.
Sure. All right, we're popular tonight here. Come on up.
Hi, Lee Barrero, I live at 719 Palm Circle Drive. The Rocco connection is important to protect the entire community from uncertain future events, as we have all experienced unfinished projects, and prevents the developer from postponing the matter into the future. Staff report, page 5, item 6, cannot ensure the remaining road network will be constructed in 2020. In fact, according to the plat on page 3 and the photo of sign posted on Hensel Road, this week shows both English Oaks and Broken Bow to be in the final phase 3 of this project with an unusual design shape. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barrero. Anyone else? Last opportunity. Last chance. We're all good? All right, we're going to bring it back to the commission here. And we'll start with Lance.
Wow. I don't really know where to start on this, you know. It's just been bounced around a long time, and a lot of times I'm twofold on this, is that if I could take away that little bit of road to get some green space back, I would like that. But at the same token is, A, we're now making an exception again. B, by not continuing Rocco Road, are we setting the standard for, again, having dead-end roads and garbage trucks that can't turn around, or we look like we've poorly planned that stuff out because we don't have the proper turnabout or whatever. But on the other side, though, I don't know that that road is truly necessary in that little tiny stretch. You know, I know it's not going to benefit a lot of people. I don't think it's going to benefit the people who live on Rocco Road. It will be detrimental to the people who live on Rocco Road now, I think. But at the same token, you know, we keep bending the rule here, and we keep bending the rule, and we've had these variants before that says we're going to do this when we start, but now we're here, we're going to start again, and we're going to do something else. But I'm kind of both ways on this right now.
Newton?
Myself, it affects 6 houses on Rocco Road, whether or not we allow this on there. There's adequate way in and out of both Rolling Hills and King's Landing, with or without Rocco Road. I do recall 4 years ago when this was called Serenity Hills, that the Rolling Hills residents, that was one of the concerns that they had at that time, is that they didn't want that connectivity at Rocco Road, and I believe they probably didn't want the one at Broken Bow either. But Westport, for a matter that I do recall, was opposed by the police and/or fire department because of the traffic that would generate out onto Taylor from that on Taylor at Spruce Creek Elementary. I remember that very vividly, is why that was an agreeable thing not to put it there. But for a matter of retaining more green space, more non-paved space that water can percolate down through, personally, I'm happy to see less pavement, and I don't see that it's needed because you will have both the English Oaks and the Broken Bow connectivity, and I just can't see a reason to not grant this tonight. It's at the behest of the residents. I do remember that from as far back as when this began 4 years ago. So that's all I really have to say about it.
Thank you, Newton. Bo?
Yeah, the only question I really have at this point is, have you done any kind of a traffic impact? Would we know what the impact would be if that green space was not available? How much traffic would we actually have through there?
If I had the engineer here, I could give you the specifics, but the general point is that a lot of the traffic's flowing east-west. You're not going south. There's no arterial road you're connecting to that's taking you in that direction. So, most of the traffic's going on to Taylor, which was reflected in the report that was provided, and that we've been working with the traffic engineers and city staff to, in terms of what the takeaway is. So, from a perspective of how we've approached it, Rocco has really never been a discussion because it's never been necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what we've been trying to do, as much as I heard insinuation otherwise, and the neighbors coming to us asking for consideration, that it doesn't hurt us in any way, that you don't have any traffic that's going south to go north. That doesn't make sense. I even think that if I remember Sam Lasser's quote correctly, that people in traffic are like rats in a maze, that you're trying to get to the quickest point in the least amount of heartache possible, and it just doesn't make logical sense.
Well, I'm trying to understand what the benefit of the green space is going to be to the residents.
Well, in terms of green space, you have the assurance that more open space.
Well, I understand that, but I'm talking about traffic. You know,
Oh.
how is this going? The concern, we have two sides to this issue.
Sure.
We've got the people that want it closed, we have the folks that want to, you know, leave it open.
Sure.
Okay, well, what is the benefit of closing it to the people that would like to have that area closed off? It's going to stop the traffic.
Well, exactly, that
Okay.
if there is through traffic to go south, that it
Mhm.
wouldn't pass through a neighborhood that's accustomed to utilizing more of a dead end in terms of cul-de-sac. You know, that's really the value in terms of traffic, because you're not affecting the flow. You know, the traffic's going out to the point at Hensel. It's not being diverted in any other meaningful way other than getting to Hensel for any traffic that would be flowing in that direction. So that would be the positive, in addition to all of the I guess more of amenities, but you know, in terms of just the more green aspects of why this would be important for, and that's why we want to support it.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help?
Well, you know, I think I'm beyond help, but
I want to help.
yeah, I understand, and I appreciate that, but I'm just thinking, I'm looking at across Hansel Road.
Sure.
And we have similar issues over there. And I don't know how that's been mitigated, if at all, and, you know, what we're going to accomplish by putting in a green space.
Well, it doesn't change the reality of what the traffic's already flowing, which is
Okay.
Hensel. And, you know, I can't necessarily, you know, the platted subdivision, you know, whether the connectivity occurs, you know, 10 feet in a different direction, it's, you know, it's always going to be on Hensel, and that's where it's going to end up. So, you know, from a traffic perspective, you're not, it's a net, it's a zero. Except for you're also eliminating what would otherwise be through traffic to folks on Rocco that have been utilizing more as a cul-de-sac.
Okay, thank you.
You good?
I think
any
so,
other-
yeah. No, I'm fine. Thank you.
You know, I look at this from two ways, and I hear both sides of the issue. I guess a little bit more green space is certainly helpful. It's always nice to have green space. There's not a lot here. I'm not sure how much traffic we're really talking about on your road. Obviously, you have none now except for the locals. And I'm not sure how much more traffic you're really talking about if we connect through. On the other hand, though, I'm probably the king of complaining about these stub outs that aren't connected. Tim Berman gets multiple emails from me when I drive around the city and I see these parcels that had stub outs planned so that there was a road, it stopped, and if there was a subdivision to be built next door to it or another commercial property or anything else, those two parcels would be connected on that road. That's why you put up the wall, the stop signs, whatever you've got the big green wall down there. And I find that what we've really got is, you know, we've got a group of a set of subdivisions, and I don't want them to be individualized to the point where they're isolated. The whole point is that we're a city of neighborhoods and that we should all be interconnected. And that when you've got a stub out sitting here, that just says no, we're blocking it off, and I just don't see that much traffic coming if we require the stub out, if we keep it. That's where I'm at. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts?
Well, I mean,
No?
on
You
that
good?
same note is like, if it was approved to say be deleted, you know, could a condition be that area's gonna need to have some trees, the barricades need to come down, and it needs to be a green wall or something a little more environmental than just saying, okay, we're gonna have, you know, a barricade. You know what I mean? If we deleted this road, you know, and we're gonna have this green space, that little spot needs to look better than just leaving a barricade.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Who takes that down who would
I
take
assume
that
it's on the side of the
Rolling Hill
Ro-
side. I
uh,
can speak to that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the Rocco Road folks there. so.
If it's simply a function of landscaping, a client's happy to condition the removal of that area with enhanced landscaping. I mean, that's the whole goal. That if it's going to be utilized as open space and, you know, green space, let's enhance it. That's
Well, who owns the barricade?
the barricade to.
The one that's existing right now at the end of Rocco Road.
Is that city property?
City.
It's city, isn't it?
Oh, there you go.
Job done.
We'll come in and take care of it for you, Kim.
But yes, again, that's That's a great point, and, you know, that is in line with what the intent of this is to simply, if we can accommodate it, and, you know, if there's a way we can enhance it so that you get more green space in something that otherwise would be utilized for just asphalt, then yes, we have no problem conditioning the approval on that.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
I guess that maybe planting some trees and
Well, you wanna be
bushes and
transparent.
shrubs.
That's the whole goal
I
here.
get that. I get that. All right. Anything else? Anybody want to make a
No,
motion?
let
or
me
anything?
follow up on that.
Kevin
Tim,
is-
can you
Hold
come
on,
up?
Yeah.
So let's just say, and again, if the road is deleted and we've now designated this, it's gonna continue to be a green space. Does it then fall under the master landscape plan as to how phase one will be landscaped in its common areas?
Yeah, we'd have to amend that landscape plan to show the additional trees.
Am I
and
saying
then-
that right?
Yeah, and basically that would be part of the common area, which is required to be maintained by an HOA.
And to be able to address the end of Rocco Road that's not gonna be coming through, it's not just a barricade, it's gonna be a green
Yeah, we'd have to
wall or
modify, if
whatever.
that got approved, that was a condition, they'd have to modify the landscape plans, and we'd have to review them and approve them so they can go under construction and build that. Then the subdivision would not be approved to allow single-family home construction to get COs until that landscape plan has been planted or meeting the code then.
What you're saying is they couldn't close on a house and let somebody move in until that's done. That's what
We
you're
have
saying.
safeguards for that.
Right.
Thank you.
But let me be careful here because the green space is not part of this right now. It's not guaranteed, it's not required to be a green space. We're just talking about not connecting this
I mean,
through.
right now, it's basically shown as a 50-foot right-of-way.
Right.
With basically 24-foot wide pavement for that length there then.
So if we really want that, I think we have to make that a condition.
So what happens if it's not, if the road is deleted, what happens to the space? What does it become?
It's going to not become right-of-way, so it will
Not
not
right-
become the city's property. And then basically it would remain open, it would remain under the developer's ownership then, which would be then transferred over to the HOA when subdivision completed. So basically, that land would ultimately belong to that HOA there to maintain.
Okay. Is that piece of property gonna be, that land is not gonna be sublotted into somebody else's parcel, correct?
No,
It's going to
no.
be
Mhm.
HOA property or common
Correct.
area, correct?
Correct.
And that has to meet landscape requirements.
Correct.
So
And
it
we're
has to
willing-
be maintained,
By the HOA.
has to be attractive.
Yep.
By the HOA.
Right.
As a condition, correct.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion? Where'd my attorney go?
She took a phone call. I see. What conditions do we want with this? We want the,
Oh, I just need the motion on the case itself if you want.
well, you can't make a motion, you can't amend the motion, so I
I
wanna
s-
make the motion what
There
we
you go.
want. So what conditions do we want on the amendment? Or on the motion?
You want the condition of required green space?
Required permanent green space.
You want the condition that they never ever come back and ask for broken bow and English oaks to ever be not connected, ever?
On the record.
On condition that,
I mean, come on, you've gone from 6 to 3. I know we got a couple of issues there, but still.
okay, I think I got it then. Okay, I move to approve case number 199-000-0003, with the conditions that
Let me do that separate. We'll just get the second on this, if that's all right with you, and then we'll
No,
make-
you need
well,
those
if you
conditions in the
can make the
motion.
motion, or we can make a motion and amend it. I was gonna make it all in one motion.
Go for it then.
Okay. Move to approve case number 199-000-0003 subdivision variance with the condition that the deleted Rocco Road space be permanent green space, and with the condition that the developer does not come back for any relief on Broken Bow or English Oaks access points.
Sure, why not? We have a motion.
We have a second.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion or on the conditions? Everybody clear on what we're talking about here? Everybody good? You good on that, on what the motion and conditions are? So the motion on the case and the conditions that the
Green space
right of
remain
way
permanent.
of Rocco Road become permanent green space. And they do not ask for variances on Broken Bow and English Oaks to be not connected.
I'm okay, but I'm
No,
not
I'm
the
talking to our
legal.
clerk.
I don't know if we can, you don't want to wait for our legality on that one, on that language.
Yeah, I don't wanna speak to the legal side.
Yeah, let's hold on that one. Seeing as our attorney stepped away for a moment. If y'all will be patient again. This is a long one tonight. Seems long.
So you want to sing a little song?
Now, we sang all the songs while we were in.
No, yeah.
I told him you were gonna bring beer.
What was that record?
I thought pizza and beer.
Forgot the beer.
It's all about the beer, right?
So we thought we'd wait for you, because we have a motion on the floor. The motion on the floor made by Newton was that we approve the case with the condition, two conditions here. One was that the portion of Rocker Road, the right-of-way of Rocker Road remain permanent green space, and that they not come back and ask for variances to not connect Broken Bow and English Oaks. What do you think of that?
That permanent green space, sorry, it's all the way through Rocker Road, right? There's no ugly barriers and then nice green space.
They'll have to landscape it.
Right.
I mean, there has to be a type of barrier.
Sure.
Okay, so.
That someone can't
I-
drive through it.
Yeah, we're not
Right,
talking about
right.
what separates it, we're
Yeah.
just talking about that
Yeah, right.
particular property, the land.
Yeah, we can't really, I don't wanna dig into what that
Right.
barrier's going to be.
Yeah.
It just can't be paved.
This is a recommendation, so you can.
Right. So, here, it has to remain green space and no more variances as to the
English Oaks
English
and
Oaks and
Broken Bow.
Broken Bow.
That's the motion, and we have a second, if you'll call the roll on that, please?
Bobo for me,
No.
Lance Green,
No.
Newton White,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
No. Motion fails. All right, sorry, gentlemen. Any other things? Nope. All righty, everybody good, we wanna move on? Moving on to case number 18-20000008, and if you'll entertain it, we'll also open up case number 18-40000004, which is the planning. I'm sorry, the zoning, right? Yeah. All righty?
Thank you, you read my mind.
Thank you very much, Penelope. Not my first rodeo here.
Penelope Cruz, Planning. The subject property is located at the west side of Riverside Drive, east of Ridgewood Avenue, between Breaksway and Seminole Avenue. The overall property, as you can see in the pink boundary, is approximately 4.7 acres. The first item that's before you tonight is the future land use amendment, and that is only the 4.2 acre area that's shown in blue here. So just some background, back in 1999, about a little bit over 4 acres of the parcel was zoned PUD, and it was approved for a 49-unit townhome project called Oak Harbor Townhomes. That project was not constructed. The MDA has since expired. The additional area that's part of the second part of this, the PUD rezoning, is currently zoned R7, single family, and has 2 single family homes on it. So the first item is the request to change the future land use designation of the 4.2 acres from office residential transition, a mixed-use category that allows office, commercial, and multifamily, to the residential category of urban medium density. The proposed amendment is generally consistent with the goals, objectives, and policy of the city comprehensive plan, particularly those that encourage a mix of land uses, expanding housing choices on infill and vacant underutilized properties within the city. The proposed amendment is compatible with the adjacent properties, as well as reduces the overall intensity of the development allowed on the property, and all public facilities have adequate capacity to accommodate the proposed land use amendment. The second item is the request to rezone the overall 4.7 acres to plan unit development and approve the Harbor Landings Master Development Agreement and I'm sorry, I can't speak now. Conceptual development plan.
Wow, those are big words.
Yeah. All right, so if approved, the owner intends to develop the subject property as a residential subdivision with 10 single-family homes and 16 townhomes, as well as associated subdivision improvements. Access will be provided from a private road that's connected to Riverside Drive as well as US 1. Access, parking, and landscaping, as well as tree preservation, meet or exceed in many times the land development code requirements. PUD zoning, however, allows an applicant to request flexibility from some standard code requirements in order to accommodate an innovative or unique subdivision or site design. In this case, the Planning Commission and City Council are being asked to consider the following four requests of policy considerations by the applicant. So the first one is to establish a minimum open space for the PUD less than 60%. As you know, you've seen lots of PUDs before you. The Land Development Code requires a 60% overall PUD open space, 20% of that which has to be common open space. This 60% PUD open space requirement is really a lot more feasible on the larger PUDs that are able to incorporate natural features and their larger drainage features and infrastructure in that open space area. Not as easy for smaller ones, and you've seen some other cases where this request has been made before you for smaller PUDs. The proposed Harbor Landings PUD is including additional impervious area, which is part of the reason why they're having a challenge meeting the 60% in addition to their size, because of the unique internal access drive that was requested by staff. Staff asked the developer to consider designing the single-family lots with rear-loaded driveways from an internal road to reduce the number of individual driveway curb cuts for each single-family lot along Riverside Drive. This allows for less interruptions and safer traffic flow along Riverside Drive. Now, according to the applicant, the PUD provides sufficient open space, conservation areas around trees, and common open space amenities for a smaller scaled PUD of this size, with a more focus on the common amenities. As you know, conventional zoning doesn't require this overall open space area. All conventional zoning requires is the minimum per lot private open space. So in this case, if you were to add the overall PUD open space, plus the common open space provided, as well as the private open space on the lots, that would yield approximately 3.2 acres of the 4.7 acre PUD as open space in one form or another. The second item under consideration for policy considerations is regarding the maximum building coverage for the townhome lots and minimum open space for the townhome lots only. The LDC has both the maximum building coverage and minimum open space requirement per lot in addition to the PUD open space requirements, and that's based on zoning categories. According to the applicant, this particular PUD is trying to focus more on providing that common open space at a larger percentage than is required by code, 33.7% versus just the minimum 20% common open space. In order to provide that common open space for the enjoyment of all the homeowners of the PUD, rather than focusing on the private open space and creating less yard maintenance by individual homeowners and allowing more of the existing trees to be preserved in common open spaces. The third item is regarding the request to have a uniform 50-foot minimum lot width for all the lots. The Land Development Code requires corner lots to be 15% larger. In this particular PUD, there's 2 corner lots proposed. They're asking to have that uniform size with the lots having the same building footprint as the internal lots to create an aesthetically uniform appearance. The lot still maintains the visual clearance angles and the typical larger side corner yards that would be provided in a lot that would be 15% larger are incorporated into the overall open space. Again, the applicant has stated that their focus with this PUD is to focus on more common open space rather than the private yard open space. And the last policy consideration is regarding the road. The LDC requires a private or a public road within a residential subdivision to be developed with a 50-foot right-of-way that includes a 20-foot wide paved street, parkage on either side, 4-foot sidewalk on either side, and utilities. The proposed private roads generally provide the same constructed improvements in less space, with the main difference being no parkage area on both sides of the street and a 5-foot sidewalk on one side of the street. Staff is recommending approval of the first item, the request to change the future land use designation of the property, as well as the request to change to rezone the property to the Harbor Landings PUD and approval of the master development and concept plan. Here to answer any questions you have. The applicant is also here and has a presentation as well.
Bo.
Just to try to be clear, this has already expired? Is that what you said?
No, the prior MDA from 1999 expired. So
Okay.
they're asking to establish a new MDA for a new PUD.
All right.
The prior one that was established in 1999 was for 49 units. They're asking to establish a PUD for 26 units.
No, I don't have any questions right now.
Good. Newton?
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen how they were gonna get the larger number. Was it 49 you said? That would have been interesting.
47.
40, whatever.
I think you'll see a blow-up of that in the applicant's presentation. That was
You had a slide there and you talked about the road width and parkage. And that's my concern with this entire plan is we have 26 homes in here, and other than a little scant space in the driveway, there's nowhere to park. There's maybe 4 or 8 additional parking spaces, and there's no room for parkage on the side of the road.
Parking on the road is actually not allowed in the MDA. The parking requirements meet or exceed the land development code requirements for single-family lots and for townhome lots on the lots, as well as with the visitor parking. So they're not asking for a variance for parking; they're meeting code.
And I could not tell with the quality of the PDF the distance, how much room between the building, the garage door, and the sidewalk of these. How much is the setback there?
There's the 20-foot setback in order to accommodate the space of the parking spaces are 20 feet long, so it meets that requirement. They're not asking for a deviation there.
It is adequate
Yes.
that you can park a car in front of the house and not block the sidewalk.
Yes.
That was a concern. And what would the setback be on the corner lots if they're not wider?
It's a 5-foot setback. So let me just get to that real quick for you. So basically, everything is being met as far as dimensional requirements. The only difference is this corner setback is the 5-foot setback, and again, their MDA, as was mentioned in the staff report, is not allowing for accessory structures in that area, and it doesn't block any visual clearance, and it's adjacent to a private street, not a public street, that with only the 26 lots. So staff reviewed it, and it doesn't appear to create any kind of concern that would typically be required of the larger lots.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're good. Lance?
So we're talking about 2 pieces of property though, right? We got a 4-acre one and then the other one, is that
Actually, 3.
correct? Or
Technically, there's 3 there.
Looks like they're taking out 2 houses and adding.
what's happening to the houses? The houses are being taken out?
Demolished.
Okay.
And incorporated into the whole PUD.
Okay. I'm good for now.
Yeah, I know this property real well. Yeah, there's 2 houses.
That's not your house we're tearing down, is it?
No, mine's across the street. Mine was, the one I had was across the street. Let's talk about docks. So they're still pursuing whether they have riparian rights?
Correct. So the MDA, the way it is written, is it foreshadows the potential if they can provide documentation to the satisfaction of the city that they have those riparian rights.
Mhm.
At this point, we have not received documentation to our satisfaction to prove that. Not until that is provided to the city and it is to the satisfaction of the city attorney's office, will any kind of potential dock be able to move forward there.
So my question really is then, if they do, if they, and the city says, great, looks good to us, what potential number of docks are they allowed to have there on that
It would be,
400
they would
feet, I
have to
think?
follow the regulations of the city's dock slip program, the manatee protection plan, where there's a set number of slips that you're allowed. You have to purchase. You have to go through a permitting process through Volusia County.
Yeah, I was about to
so-
say, is there any left?
So
Should be
it
a
would just,
bunch.
at that time, if that right to that land is provided, that analysis would be done there, and it would have to meet the county, state, city standards.
What
for that.
about Army Corps?
I think that's all included in the, it's just it
I
would be
don't
a
know.
dock. It's not a marina, it would be a dock, so, it would have to,
I know that the criteria
state
for the
standard.
docks is pretty tough from what we've been through
Yeah.
here, and I know that there's only a certain amount of slips that are available, and you're only allowed to get a certain percentage of the slips that might be available,
Right.
kind of thing. So it's
Last
pretty
time I
tough.
heard, it was only 65 permits available.
Yeah, it's pretty
And
tough.
that's not too many.
Is there any fill going into this property?
the engineering plans have not been submitted at
Okay.
this point. This is just zoning
So-
and land use.
Got it. That's true. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
I'm good. Thank you. The applicant like to come forward here? Thanks, Penny.
You're welcome.
Good evening. My name is Michael Schminto. I represent the applicant, 120 East Granada Avenue. It's been a long project that we started on this with staff in 2017. And due to staff's comments, questions, requests for redesign, we've been back and forth with our engineer and your staff. So I appreciate you all's patience with us and your effort to get this to a point where you're happy with it. The PowerPoint, can I use it here?
Mhm.
Okay. This project is on the property. It was approved in 1999 for a 49-unit subdivision. The council approved it. It was, the Flume was a designation of office and retail, and it was, strangely enough, approved for 49 just single or attached family residential units, so it was a townhome product. I'm not familiar and didn't get into the details of how that happened, but it did. And we thought it was interesting too, that this is the plan that was approved in 1999 by the commission.
Yeah.
It was just a pure townhome plan. It was 5 pounds of, or 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack. And as you'll see shortly, that's not what my client and the market in this area desire to have, we don't believe. And nor do we think that if we came back with this plan today that it would be approved. So 2 years ago, we started with staff. The engineers first met and the owner first met with what I'll just call a visioning session. And we set out on this process. Again, it's presently zoned, the PUD, and all we're asking for is a new type of PD, the agreement behind it, the conceptual plan approved. The comp plan on this property, as you see in your package, allows for significant, high-intensity, dense type of projects that would be permitted under the Land Development Code. For example, presently, staff did these calculations and we agree with them. For example, if a plan complied with the Land Development Code, the theoretical maximum would be 584 trips per day coming from it. Or in the alternative, if we had more commercial than residential, I mean if it was all commercial, it'd be 3,600 trips per day. So as you can see, what it's presently comp planned for is a pretty intense thing. So as part of our project, we're asking to downzone it to the 26 units, and the theoretical maximum under the comp plan of what we're asking for goes from anywhere from 584 to 3,600 trips per day to 198. That's total trips per day. And as most people measure it in PM peak, it's only 18 trips per day that comes out of this. So if you want to talk about what's presently permitted and what we're asking for, we can get into some of the details in that. But I would venture to say that probably we're all looking to downzone this property. So what is it about this plan that we're proposing? They are 10 single-family detached dwelling units and 16 townhome products. And you know, we're going through some of these issues with staff about setbacks and coverage on what's permitted in a townhouse. The interesting part is we all know that a townhouse is simply the form of ownership. It's you own the land. We could have the same building and do it as a condominium and do units. And interesting enough, under the condominium structure in your code, we will comply with it. So whether we go with a townhouse or a condominium, it doesn't really change the layout of the townhouse product. It's just that your setbacks and impervious areas on townhouses are different. So needless to say, we're trying to create a unique product here, and we think we've got it, and we think we have a market for it. So in 2017, we first started working with staff, and this is the plan that we came in with. As you can see, it was still for the 49 units, but along Riverside Drive, it had the homes and it had the driveways. We had heard through staff, and my client had heard through some of the residents in the community that they were concerned about that because of the flooding of the road and traffic. And so staff said, hey, you know, can you go back and take a look at this and find a way to have one access on Riverside Drive and minimize that. In addition to that, see what you can do to help with the drainage on there. So we did that, and it took some time, it took some money. As you can see in our present project, we're not able to have a pool and cabana and that type of thing. And our market studies don't necessarily believe that today, given the product that we're going to deliver, that those amenities are actually necessary. So we were able to free up some space and accommodate them, staff that is. In addition, there were 2 entrances on US 1, Ridgewood, and that was a concern. The ingress egress, does it get tricky? So we evaluated that. And while we do all those things, we have to move pieces, and as you know, there's an unintended consequence if you do this, then this happens. And that's what we've been really struggling with for about a year and a half. And one of the things was open space and obviously trees. This is Tree City, USA, so to speak. And we had to evaluate that. We've had our arborist on site and looked at every single tree, marked them up, and back and forth with staff, made some concessions, I'll say. And at the end of the day, after much give and take and going back, this is the present plan that we have in the PUD. As you can see, there are no driveways other than the main driveway on Riverside Drive. We've also added some drainage features in there to assist. I don't think it will solve any flooding or drainage issues that periodically happen, but it certainly has been demonstrated by the engineers that it will improve. It'll allow water to move and migrate faster in any direction that it seems. We're putting in a sidewalk along that area for the community. And we're trying to keep the buffers along the edges of the road, including on Fozzard Boulevard, which is a city right-of-way that isn't intended to be developed. And I think it has certain public improvements such as drainage. Along the rear, at first we did not have a second access to Ridgewood. We had provided an emergency ingress-egress in the event that there was a problem. And so we've heard through the grapevine that that was an issue for the city, and staff came back to us and said, what can you do? So we added this driveway, in this area, which obviously added a little more impervious area, but we were also able to manipulate this area, more drainage, more open space, as well as save a few more trees. So that is the plan that we have. Now, the roadway width was talked about, but I need to draw to your attention that this is not a two-way road, so it's not necessary to have a 50-foot right-of-way. It's a single loop. So residents come in, and they loop around, and they head out. Okay? So we don't really need a 50-foot road for one-way traffic. And that was one of the things that we worked with staff to minimize impervious, to help the drainage, but also to help with parking. We pushed back the townhouses further back so that in the front on the roadway we have 1-car and 2-car garages, but each driveway fits the car. As you see, we put the sidewalk on the other side of the road, and we've also provided additional parking areas for visitors, even though and in addition to each home having sufficient parking for the residents and their guests. So this is an additional need. That was a request of staff, and we accommodated that. So we do have some, the impervious area that you talked about that is not consistent with the identical zoning code that you have in a typical LDC. And the other part about the two lots, when you first come in, they are corner lots, and we recognize that. The 5-foot setback is from our property line, not from the edge of curb, as is typically, or the right-of-way that is typically done. As you can see on these homes, it's 5 feet from the back of the sidewalk that we have there. So, when we sell these lots, the owners will be aware that the setbacks aren't as typically done in Port Orange. We don't think that's a big issue because we think these homes, and we're trying to hit a market that has a significant price point. This is what our engineer took as a best stab to overlay the lot on the existing property. And you can see on here the existing trees that we're saving. In this area right here, there's an incredible 51-inch oak tree. We have a couple of major ones here. So we've agreed to and will develop tree wells or any other type of tree-saving devices that certified arborists and your staff approve when we get into laying out the house and doing soil borings and things like that. We've established open spaces here and in here to save the largest and most beautiful trees. So you can see what we've done here. We've saved more than 50% of the specimen trees and all historic trees. That meets your land development code and exceeds it, in fact. So the next thing is, what is the product? I think everybody and the residents in the area want to know what's being built there. And that's always a concern in my 20 years. And that's the townhouse, and these are the front elevations on the home. Our price points right now in today's market are $450,000. We hope. We have lots of interest from builders and or people that we have marketed to. So this is the view that if you walk on Riverside Drive, that you'll see on the front of the house. Because if you recall back, let me see, sorry about this. Sorry about that. That's the front of the house that you saw, and that's right here. So these residents will actually walk out, a little gate as it shows, step out on their veranda to see the river, see the neighborhood. People will walk up and down, give it kind of a neighborhood feel. And the parking garages will be around the rear. So as I go back to that slide, this is the product that we're intending to develop and is part of our PUD. Let me see here, how do I do this? Are you guys seeing this? What do you think? Let me get back up. Did it freeze on it?
It did.
Sorry.
Oh, what happened? What did you do? Oh.
Froze up
I
on.
promise you, there's something inside me that screws technology up. If you ask my office, copiers.
I'm sure the next slides were just
You're
gorgeous.
down to 30 seconds.
That's fine. I'll get out of here. I just wanted to show you what it is. I'll just keep talking and keep going. You can take a look at that PowerPoint. So that's the product that we'd like to do. The PUD process in the 2 years that we've been going through is going to give and take with your staff. They've been very engaged, thank you, with the design of everything, including some of the elevations.
I'll give it just
Parse it.
straightforward.
Thank you, I won't touch that. So that's it. Again, that's the front of the house. We recognize that trees are an issue, and you see the tree preservation plan. We ask for your approval, and if you have any questions, we're here to ask and answer any of those from the community. So,
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
Any questions?
The only question I have is how wide is that road?
The pavement is 26 feet. Does that include the curb also? We've been over this with your
17.
fire department.
Yeah.
They've seen it, your engineers have seen it. We've actually widened it.
It's one way. all
One
the way,
way, and they
so
have plenty of radius.
Yeah.
Correct? I don't have a plan.
Well, it varies. So, oops, is that the driveway one? Sorry. Where did I put the driveway one? Oh, I'm sorry, it's in the other section. It varies. There's at where the two-way drives are, it goes up to 25, I believe, and then it's where it's a one-way loop. Here, let me show you the picture real quick so you can see.
So you have clearance for 2 cars?
No, because it's
No,
one
no,
way.
it's a one-way.
Yeah, but if you had a car passing, somebody
17.
pulled up.
Oh, yeah, there's room for that
It's
because,
17 there and 21 there.
what is this? So there's, oops. So in this area here where the two-way drives are, the pavement is 25, I believe. And then there's curb on either, mountable curb on either that can support, it's actually stronger than the pavement for the fire truck. And here, the pavement is 17, and then you've got the 2-foot environmental curbs on either side, which can support the fire truck. And it's been reviewed and gone through the SDRC process, and fire has approved it.
And we did the turning radius exercise.
Like on
Yeah.
that.
Okay, that's fine.
If you have any questions, I'll answer. If you want to wait till after public comment, that's fine too.
Well, Bo, started, go ahead.
Yeah, that's my only question. Staff is recommending approval on. Looks good to me.
Mr. White?
My concerns are pretty well addressed. You know, any time, doesn't matter what neighborhood you have a large enough gathering of people in one person's residence, and it takes up the whole street. And, you saying that, or pointing out that this is one way, a one-way loop, that kind of mitigates the narrowness of it, to me. Historically, I remember what was here, I guess I'd have to say 40 years ago now.
Really? You're that old?
I am.
History lessons here.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And it's probably been vacant for 30. So I'm happy to see something to go here, and I think you have quieted all of my concerns.
Oh, I do appreciate, thank you guys for being patient with us, get that wall fixed. It took us a while to get, money from the insurance company, but got fixed a couple months ago.
See, you shouldn't have brought that up.
I know.
We've forgotten all about that, didn't we, Tim?
Yeah.
What's
You're on
that?
your work.
We did,
You
yes.
fixed it, now you're gonna
Yes,
tear
we
it down to
did.
build
No,
this.
it'll all be
Oh,
covered.
No, it's staying.
You'll be there?
Yeah,
Yep.
it'll all be there.
Yep. Lance?
I don't have anything for him, no.
Left that one wide open. How many trees? Where are you going?
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you're the last guy to ask him.
How many trees are we saving and how many trees are we losing?
There
I
are-
should say of the specimen trees.
There are 37 total specimen trees. Specimen trees include historic trees. So out of the 37 specimen trees, 7 are historic. We're saving 17.
27.
20, is that 27? My glasses are getting weaker. Sorry. And
Mine
all the
too.
historic trees are going to be saved. These are twos. I need 2.5s now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There are some gorgeous trees down
There
there.
are, and
There
you know,
really
we
are.
haven't figured out how to save like that big 51-inch, but when we get to the point of putting in a road and a house and laying out where
There's
exactly.
an easy way to save it.
Where's that?
Just
Yeah,
don't
build
build
a
it.
house there. I get you. I get you. So we committed to do tree wells or whatever that our arborist and your arborist agreed to.
You're basing that on the fact that you probably have to do a bunch of fill.
You know, we're fortunate here. There's not a ton of fill that needs to be imported on site because what we do is we dig down and we just spread it around. So we don't have to raise it too much, is my understanding from the engineer.
Good.
And city council, I can have that specifically, it has to stay how much fill. You know, it's pretty sandy and it percolates very well, and that's why our drainage ponds don't have to be so large.
Very cool. All right, that's all I needed.
Thank you.
Is there any public comments on this particular issue tonight? Anyone wish to speak? Seeing none, we'll bring it back here to the commission, and I guess we'll start with Bo. Any comments, questions, anything else you want to raise about this one?
No, as I said a minute ago, I'm satisfied with the project. Staff recommends it. I'm sure it's been scrutinized closely, and I'm all for it.
Okay. Yeah, staff said in the report that they received 8 phone calls or walk-ins and had a list of 18 residents that asked to be notified. And nobody showed up. Just checking.
That is correct. It was a total of 26 people that were notified that were on our list. I did receive 2 emails after the packet went out on Friday. Both of them were positive, and we're hoping that you would approve this, which was very rare. I've never gotten that kind of an email before, so just thought I'd put that on the record.
Buy beer for everybody. You're
Yeah, I
happy.
was gonna say it came from a bar. Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else, Newton? No?
I'm good with this.
Lance?
I think here's the, here's the gist of it is that I look at the impact, and the way it's zoned and, we're zoned commercial and what could go there and how much traffic could go to that potential site. I don't know that it would ever be a retail center, but this is a great infill project for the city. This is it's well designed. My only concern is, it'll come back to us later, will be the flooding or the engineering and the water retention on this project, but I'm sure they can get that worked out. But then you take a look at what potentially could be put onto the tax base here, you know what I mean, with these handful of homes at that value, you're looking at the least amount of impact to the road with the highest value to Port Orange. So I think overall, I think the staff's done a good job. I think they've done a good job at this project. I went down there and looked at it again, and I know we talk about saving some of the trees, and it's going to be difficult because I do believe that 51-inch oak, by the time you get done with its root system, it's probably going to be too massive. But at the same token, it's still, they've got a lot of trees on that site, and it's still going to be a great site when it's done. But I'm pleased with the project.
Yeah, I think based on what could have been there, that was planned however many years ago, that was horrendous. And in those years since, several projects have been suggested that were equally as bad. They just never got anywhere, which was fortunate. But yeah, my concern was the trees. There's some beautiful trees there, and you hate to see any of them go down. But for this particular parcel and this particular area and the roads that it sits on, it's just a really good solution. It's a really good design and development, I think.
Keeping the driveways off of Riverside
Oh,
Drive,
yeah,
keeping
good
them
job.
internal, I think was
Really good job.
Yeah.
No, it really is a great idea. My only concern is somebody's going to have to deal with, well, that'll be the HOA. They'll have to deal with somebody has a party and they've got 10 cars and they're not allowed to park on the street. Where do you park them? You're going to get that. But it's a private road, so the police don't have to get involved, right? Right. Anyone make we'll do a motion on each one separately. I'll get the right paperwork here. I can't do it. One of you pick it up.
All right.
There you go.
Move to approve case number 182-000-0008, small scale comprehensive plan, future land use map amendment, Harbor Landings PUD.
Thank you very much. Do we also need to include the authorization to send the docs? That was in there too, or is that just included?
As recommended by staff.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second to approve as recommended by staff. If you call the roll, please.
Bo Bofamy,
Yes.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Newton White,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on, I'll entertain a motion on the next one, please.
How many zeros is there? Move to approve case number 4-000-0004, planned unit development with master development agreement and conceptual development plan, rezoning Harbor Landing subdivision. As recommended by staff.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. If you'll call the roll, please.
Bo Bofamy,
Yes.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Newton White,
Yes.
Chairman Thomas Jordan.
Yes. Congratulations. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I hope that turns out well. Very good. All right, moving on. Other business, commissioner comments. Lance Green, any comments tonight?
Nope. You gonna ask if
Newton.
I got a fever?
You got a fever?
Yep.
Oh, man.
No, I think I'm quiet tonight. I think I've complained enough on the telephone.
Wow, very good. Bo?
And Tim agrees.
I'm happy.
I'm good too. I want to thank the staff, and I know it's not part of your group anymore, but the church property has definitely gotten improved, and I know everybody's been anxiously awaiting that, and it's nice to see that particular property at least looking a little bit better.
Well, I had an
That's good.
article in the paper on it, so maybe it'll help get the buzz going.
I haven't been out there,
So-
have they actually done work?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah, the roof actually shines.
That's why I have nothing to
Get
say
a
tonight.
glint. All right, any staff comments for us? No, you ready to go home? Thank you very much.
Make a motion to adjourn?
There you go, thank you. Motion second.
We still got public.